All right, we are live here on Facebook Live on NBC Philadelphia's Facebook page. Lauren Mayk is here, but she's not here at NBC Philadelphia because she's gone to Washington ahead of the State of the Union address. Thanks for taking the time out, Lauren. I know it's a busy, busy day and night tonight, but you do have this
Yeah.
window of downtime right before the speech begins.
This is
And
what
God
this is called
forbid that Lauren should have nothing to do for half an hour because we know how busy you love to stay. So thanks for
this
doing
is
this.
called the time of the waiting, the time of the waiting. And
Yes.
let me tell you
Tell
where
us
we
where you
are.
are, by the way.
Yeah. I'm in Emancipation Hall, which if you've been to visit Washington, it's you go into you go to the visitor center,
Right.
and that is sort of where we are. There's a room with statues. We are upstairs. You go in downstairs with the room with the statues, and then upstairs is where we are. The railing right behind me, so the statues are right downstairs.
Right.
And I am in an area that is designated for the media here tonight. I can sort of show you a little bit about. There's like
Oh, yes.
rows of
Yep.
media, all around. Oops. And I lost my light, Jim. I lost my light. I'm doing my own
You can
doing
pick it
my own
up.
stuff here.
Go ahead and pick it up.
Uh,
I'll
I
vamp
got
while you pick up your light.
I got some help
So,
here. I got some help from an
so
NBC colleague. So that's where
sure.
we are. And this is an area where people have been doing interviews all day with members of Congress. And then you'll see some coming here after the speech as well.
Yeah. So I know you went up yesterday
Mm-hmm.
ahead of today's speech, and originally one of the focuses was what was going to perhaps be happening outside on the streets of DC in the district ahead of the State of the Union
Yep.
and possibly during the State of the Union, this truckers convoy and protests that was expected. Are you seeing that still happening?
We're not, and we've definitely kept an eye open for that, but we haven't seen any sign of any of the trucker convoys coming through here, at least not at this point. But we have seen security around the Capitol and in the area in preparation for not just that, but any other possible protest that might happen as well. There is a fence that has been, you saw that after January 6th, there was a fence up and then it was taken down. There is now a fence around all the perimeter of the Capitol, and it goes all the way out to the street. So really, there's not even like a sidewalk that you can walk on there
Mm-hmm.
on that side. We also, and behind the fence, there are concrete barriers. So it's like layered security there. Obviously, a lot of security inside the building here. There was a security sweep earlier here today. We saw some National Guard vehicles on our way to the Capitol earlier today. So there's visible security here.
And some of those guard members are from our viewing area.
Yeah, New Jersey, I
Yeah.
believe. New Jersey. I didn't see the
Yeah.
license plate of the
Yeah.
vehicles that we saw on the way, but yeah.
So much has happened, Lauren, um, since you started making plans to be in DC for State of the Union, and there was this expected protest by these truckers. Obviously, now we're 5 days into this, day 6, day 5 into this.
6 days, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's day 6. If
6.
you
Yeah.
project ahead to their time, they're 7 hours
Mm-hmm.
ahead in Ukraine. So we had talked about this on the air yesterday. President's State of the Union address, that's something that he and the speech writers work on for weeks leading up to the actual night of
Mm-hmm.
the address. And all of a sudden, obviously, a week or so before the address, this global epic invasion that's sort of gotten the attention of the world happened, and Putin decided to go into Ukraine. And we know from reporting from NBC News that the president and his team have obviously made changes to the State of the Union address tonight
Yeah.
to talk about it.
Yeah, it certainly it changes things in several ways. Certainly, the content of the speech it changes. It changes sort of the way this speech is watched around the world. I spoke
Mm-hmm.
with one member of Congress today who has worked in Ukraine and still has a lot of contacts there about what they are looking for, and he said um, they're looking to this speech tonight. I think he said confidence is one of the things that they are looking for, and they also are hoping that the U.S. will send aid. That's another thing. It also changes the sort of the talk of what legislation is coming next. Otherwise, we might be talking about domestic focused legislation. We are still talking about legislation involved inflation and that, but we're also talking about money to be sent to Ukraine and aid to be sent to Ukraine, and that is going to look like, and what will be in there, and so it changes that, and it just changes the tone. Sometimes to the State of the Union, and people will be trying to send some sort of message. I remember one year there were a lot of female members who dressed all in white. Well, this year you're seeing blue and yellow. You are people really full blue and yellow, sometimes have a blue and yellow tie. One member of Congress I talked had a blue and yellow, and of course are the colors of the Ukrainian flag. So that
The
is
colors
sort of the message a lot of people are trying to send.
Flag, yeah.
The Ukrainian flag, yeah. Trying to
You were breaking
support.
up a little bit. You were breaking up a little bit. I was just trying to enhance what you were saying because it was cutting in and out. But so you'll see
Thank you.
the colors of the Ukrainian flag.
Yep.
Much as here in Philadelphia, we're seeing buildings, and in Camden, we're seeing buildings lit up in the colors of the Ukrainian flag in support of Ukraine. And there's this question of money and aid to Ukraine. I know it's upwards of $6+ billion that's being talked about.
Yeah.
And what kind of support are you seeing for that among our delegation that you've been speaking with?
Everyone that I spoke with said that that they were supportive of sending aid to Ukraine. I did speak with Congressman Brian Fitzpatrick, and he was specific saying that he would be a lot of support if it was a clean bill, meaning if it was just a standalone bill. Just here's what that we want to send Ukraine.
So we're having some trouble hearing you, Lauren. Some of the Wi-Fi, I think, in that building is obviously getting sopped up by all of the reporters and the crews that are there. We'll see if we can get Lauren back, but she's been talking with members of our local delegation, Mary Gay Scanlon, Madeline Dean. She also spoke with Brian Fitzpatrick. Lauren is back now. That seems like it's okay. It's okay. It's modern technology. It seems like your signal is back. And you were talking to us about what Brian Fitzpatrick was saying about the notion of sending aid to Ukraine.
He was saying that he was supportive of that, but he was saying that he thought that it would get a lot of support if it were a standalone bill of just the aid for Ukraine and not paired with something else that maybe some people wouldn't agree with or support. And we don't know yet what the plans are for that legislation and whether it would be paired with anything else. So this is Washington. Those are the things they have to figure out.
This is coming at a really important time for the president. We know his approval rating is not as robust as obviously the administration would like to see going into the State of the Union. It's obviously an important time also for his party, for the Democrats, when it comes to the midterms. So talk to us a little bit about the bump that the Biden administration would be hoping for coming out of the State of the Union, and how much more important this speech is tonight from that standpoint, regardless of the tone that we'll see about Ukraine, but domestically in terms of domestic programs as well.
Well, these things, of course, don't happen in a vacuum, and you can't ignore the fact that it is an election year. It is a midterm election year. And so when you talk about the president's approval rating, you are really not just talking about the president, you're talking about his party. And all of the House members are up for re-election.
Yeah.
And Democrats have a very slim margin. They have a very slim margin in the Senate as well. And they had been hoping to pick up seats in the Senate. But, certainly you have to look at, whatever he says tonight will be looked at politically as well. And when you talk about, whether he gets a bump, that affects his party as well and how it's viewed. And there are things that he has to address tonight, like inflation, for example, that is happening while he is in office and while Democrats are in charge. And he is expected to address that tonight, and set out some specific things that are his plan for how he thinks it should be addressed.
You're going to be you hope to talk to some folks after his speech to get some local reaction, right? I'm hoping they're able to come your way so that you can speak with them, right? You're at their mercy, if you will, with the way things work at the Capitol.
Yeah, you have to, get on a train or go through a tunnel or,
Yes.
cross a river and a stream to
Yes.
to get over
The
here.
good thing I'm not doing that, right? With
You've
my
been
broken
here. You
foot.
know how it is. You know
Yeah.
how it is. But yeah, hopefully we'll be able to talk to a few folks afterwards, including one from the president's home state. Hopefully, we'll be able to grab one of them and and hear how they're reacting to the speech, and really, given what we were just talking about, how they then sort of take this and and run with it, and also what they're going to do to implement, or if they are going to do things to implement some of the things that he's asking for. Because when the president stands up there and gives a speech like the State of the Union, he's not just saying, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. He's dependent on Congress to achieve those things. And I know one of the things he's going to be asking for is for Congress to send him certain legislation to address inflation. And so now that's on them, and they have to figure out what that's going to look like, and whether they can pass it.
We also know that we've gotten word from our colleagues at NBC News that he is going to announce in this speech back to Ukraine, closing U.S. airspace to any Russian aircraft, which dovetails with what we've seen other nations doing in the wake of the invasion of Ukraine.
Yeah, it's interesting. We're seeing sort of these actions rolled out. And, as I talked to people, right after the invasion, there were, and, I'm sure people you talked to as well, there were a lot of people who said, well, why aren't we doing X, Y, and Z? Why aren't we doing this now? And that has not been the way it's been. It has been sort of a gradual thing in terms of sanctions, in terms of action, now in terms of aid, in terms of dealing with the consequences of this, dealing with the sort of the rolling consequences of gas prices, for example. I talked to the Energy Secretary, Jennifer Granholm, today, and she said that the U.S. and some of its allies will be releasing reserves. I think 60 million barrels of oil, which they hope will help lift some pressure on gas prices, which are high, and which she says to expect to continue to go up. So, yeah.
I'm just reading one of our viewers is weighing in. Charlene saying, and he should close airspace and much more.
And I wonder whether she's talking about the airspace over Ukraine, because that's something that I have definitely heard.
That's different.
That is different, and that's different than what you were talking about.
Right.
And I don't know whether or not what she is referring to, but it may be airspace over Ukraine, because that is something that I know people from Ukraine have said to me, that they want the U.S. to get involved in closing the airspace over Ukraine so Russian missiles can't get in. But that is something that the House Press Secretary has said we are not doing. U.S. is not doing, because potentially end up being in engagement with Russian military.
All right, Lauren, we're having Wi-Fi issues, and it's 15 minutes before the State of the Union gets underway. I know you need to sort of get your ducks in a row to be able to watch the speech, as do I. So we're going to stop it there. Thanks to Lauren Mayk for taking the time out to talk with us. We appreciate it so much. And tonight at 11, we'll have a full recap. You'll see Lauren Mayk live in our newscast, and we'll see what the president says both on this very serious situation in Ukraine, but also domestically, and sort of laying out what his agenda is moving forward in his administration, and how it's received. So tonight's a very important night, not just for the Biden administration, but really in terms of world affairs, and how the United States continues to try to deal with this Russian aggression in Ukraine. So thanks for being here. Really appreciate it. Anytime. You can follow me on Facebook at Jim Rosenfield News, and you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Jim Rosenfield, all one word. So have a great night, everybody, and hope you'll join us tonight at 11 o'clock. Really appreciate it. See you then.